So first of all, let me state here that I am still having a bit of a sore throat, and it's getting better anyways. I saw my doctor yesterday, and he told me to do a little bit of talking, take a lot of hot water and the likes, and things are getting better. I think my voice is better of what it was sounding like yesterday, and I think you can hear me very, very well at this point in time. So please bear with me. It might still look a little bit uh, different from what you are used to, but I'll try as much as possible to make it clear and engaging despite this temporary challenge. All right, everyone. So, welcome once again to another insightful session of our weekly price action based technical analysis series right here on the XTrend Speed Live. So, the first asset we are going to be taking today, as usual, is of course the US All Spot. Now, on the US All Sports, in the last 24 hours, we have a very profitable position on this asset. Remember, I told you we have been buying this asset since the beginning of this week. And so at the beginning of the week, we had this range identified where price action was trading between the $80.20 level and the $79.93 area to give us an insight into the level of indecision at that point in time. And you know how we do it in this community. When price action falls into such a range, we want to wait patiently for price to either break out of the resistant line to give us an opportunity to buy or break down the support line to give us an opportunity to sell. Now, with this situation here, prior to the beginning of the live session, I told us all that I already have a buy position triggered, which of course we added more positions at the breakout of the $80.50 level. And I told us all yesterday that we can capitalize on that move if you had missed out on those previous buy positions, that a breakout retest of the $81 mark will definitely welcome more buy position. And for those who had missed out on those triggers at the 80-20 and 80-50, you must have been able to capitalize on this one, as we saw price move over 70 pips in our favor before the bearish momentum began. And if you had moved your stop loss accordingly, definitely you would have been taken out with a modest size of profits, or at a worst case scenario break even if you had moved your stop loss to your entry point. So once again, well done to those who are taking advantage of this move. Now that we are going into the New York session today, what is really going to be our plans? How do we intend to position ourselves ahead of the New York session today? Now, the first thing I would like to do here before we go into the nitty-gritties of what our expectations will look like is to scale up into the 4 hours time frame so that we can have an holistic perspective into what is really going on in the market at this point. And to refresh our memories, remember at the beginning of the week, we took into consideration the nature of price action since the beginning of the month of July. And what we were able to come up with here was quite interesting, as we saw that price action was more of the bullish side. As you will see, price continue to find higher highs and higher lows since the beginning of the month. And to further emphasize the strength of the buyers here, we were able to connect the series of higher lows, and in fact we had a couple of trend lines which has been supporting that bullish momentum. And of course, you know how we do it in this community when price action, when we have an ascending trend line like this, as long as price action remains above the ascending trend line, we want to be looking out for patterns and structures that will support the idea of buying that asset. Now, with the situation we had here, we had no other choice than to look out for buying opportunity since price action remained above the ascending trend line. Now, if we zoom right into the current structure, as you will see here, we were able to identify a key level which we said we were going to be using to guide our trading activity for the week, and this is situated at the $80 mark. This level right here was a strong selling niche sometime last week. As you will see, we saw it was a strong selling niche before we saw the breakout happened on Friday of last week's trading session. And you all know from a technical standpoint, as soon as price action breaks out of a key level such as the $80 level, we expect that at some point in time price will come back and retest that structure in anticipation of another wave of bullish momentum, which prompted the idea of buying the US oil spot yesterday morning. Now, with the situation we have right now, you will notice that as soon as price action tested the $81.75 level, we begin to see selling pressure resume in this market, giving us a clue that we might likely be seeing some profit-taking activities go on in the market right now, which of course always is a sign that which always reflects on the chart as a retracement phase. Now, with the situation we have right now, will this selling pressure continue, and how far will it go before another wave of bullish momentum will happen? Now, to guide our trading activities, remember we have an ascending trend line which we spotted earlier. In fact, we have a couple of them. Now, how far that retracement phase will go, it depends on how the market will react with either of this ascending trend line. So if it gets into this trend line, we shall see and wait. We shall wait and see how the market will react to that level. If we do have a breakout of this, if we do have buy pressure resume here, we're going to be joining an uptrend continuation. But if a breakdown happens, then price we'll be looking at the $80 mark area one more time, which of course shares a beautiful confluence with that second ascending trend line, which depending on how price action reacts to this level will determine if we are going to be joining an uptrend continuation or a downtrend if a breakthrough of that level happens. So from an holistic point of view, this is how we are going to be managing our positions here. Now, for us to have a better perspective into what is going on, we shall be scaling down into the 1 hour time frame where we begin to see things more clearly. Now, we're going to be focusing on the $81 mark, which of course has been a major determinant of price action since the beginning of the week. We saw how it was a buying here, and price action is back into that zone. So if a breakdown happens, we might likely be getting ready to join a counter trend opportunity, and if buy pressure is observed, we will be getting ready to buy an uptrend continuation. So with this information we have gathered here on the 4 hours time frame, let's scale back down into the 1 hour time frame where we begin to see things more clearly. So right here on the 1 hour time frame, we are back into that structure, and here is the $81 mark which I spotted to you on the higher time frame, as you will see here. Now, one interesting thing you notice here is that price has been finding lower highs since the later part of the New York session, giving us a trend line after connecting the series of lower highs. Now, going into the New York session today, this trend line is going to be a yardstick that we shall be using to guide our trading activity for today. Now, what this simply means is that as long as price action remains below the trend line, we will continue to look out for structures and patterns that will support the idea of selling this asset at this point in time. However, if a breakout of the ascending trend line of the descending trend line happens, then we will consider buying the US oil spot. Now let's talk about the bearish expectation in this market. Now, if we are going to be selling, of course, we want to be looking out for selling opportunities below the $81 mark area, which has been a very strong demand zone since in the last 24 hours. As you will see, our sellers continue to struggle as soon as price action gets into that structure. So for us to sell here, we would need a confirmation to happen, something like a breakdown retest of structure to sell this move to the downside. And of course, I told you earlier that we are going to be looking forward to see how the market will react to those ascending trend lines to determine if we are going to be adding more sell position or getting ready to join another wave of bullish momentum. So this is how we are going to be selling the US oil spot for today. Now, there is a caveat to this trading setup. if you don't feel comfortable taking short-term trades or you don't feel comfortable taking counter trend opportunities, I would advise you to stay clear of this breakdown retest of the $81 level, because it needs a level of patience, as you would need to be on standby to move your stop loss accordingly as soon as price action moves in your favor. So if you are a counter trend trader, well, this is a very good opportunity to capture any potential move to the downside. Now, for those who would not take advantage of this counter trend opportunity, you want to hold on and see how the market would react to either the $80.50 level, where if buy pressure resumes around that area, we want to be joining the bullish move, and of course the $81 level, where depending on how price action reacts to the structure will determine if we are going to be joining the bearish move or getting ready for an uptrend continuation. So that is that on the USOIL spot in terms of selling this asset. Now, in as much as we're looking out for the potentials of sellers here, remember how we do it in this community. We don't want to ignore the potentials of the buyers too as well. In fact, this price action has been very bullish in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks in this market, and to ignore the potential of buyers at this juncture doesn't seem reasonable at this point. Now, what is it we are going to be looking at to buy the USOIL spot today? Well, like I said earlier, we need a break out of this descending trend line, which of course will indicate that this trend line may no longer be able to reject the bullish attempt. So if we cite a breakout of this trend line and of course the breakout of the $81.40 level, then at this point we want to be getting ready to buy. And for those who are joining for the first time, you want to be looking out for confirmation. It could be the retest of the $81.40 or the ascending trend line, but most importantly, we want to see bullish pressure, buying pressure. It could be a double bottom structure to join the uptrend continuation. So we are only going to be buying above the ascending trend line. And for those who are already profitable on the USOIL spot for this week, we can afford to leverage on the profit we had made so far this week to test waters above the $81.40 level. So for those who are profitable, you can afford to have your buy stop order anywhere above the $81.40 level to capitalize on an uptrend continuation, while you have your stop loss, very, very important, below the $81 area, which will be dovetailing to approximately 35 pips. So let's see how the market will play out, and if it does continue to the upside, then a further breakout of the $81.75 level will welcome more buying opportunities in this particular market. So you can see we have a very simple setup here, where our center of focus is basically between the $81.40 and the $81 area, where the breakout of the $81.40 level will be supporting the bullish idea, while the breakdown of the $81 level will be supporting the idea of selling this particular asset. So these are my views here on the USOIL spot for today. If you do have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section.